Happy fall. It is officially my favorite time of the year. The leaves are changing, the air's getting a little bit more crisp, and everything just feels a little bit more cozy. I have been saving so many books to specifically read this time of year, so I'm so excited to share my fall book recommendations and fall TBR with you all. So starting off first with my fall book recommendations, and first I have some no spice fall romances. So first up we have Falling Like Leaves by Misty Wilson. This is a young adult second chance romance set between New York City and small town Connecticut. It's said to be inspired by Jenny Han and also the small towns in Gilmore Girls and Heart of Dixie. And if you're looking for something like atmospheric to really get you in that fall mood, this is the book. It has the fall festivals and activities, and they go apple picking and all of the fun fall drinks, and it's just the perfect, I feel like, fall atmospheric read, plus a second chance romance. I absolutely adored this. Next, we have Everything's Coming Up Rosy by Courtney Walsh. This is one of my 5-star reads this year, one of my favorite books I've probably ever read. It's one of her books that leans between women's fiction and romance, which I really enjoy. And this one specifically follows Rosie, who is feeling a little bit lost in life. She ends up getting this job working for a regional theater production, what she thinks is a regional theater production of Cinderella, but come to find out when she gets there, it's actually a retirement community. So this has like a huge ensemble cast with a found family and really great community and also romance, and Rosie just really finding herself throughout this story. And I feel like with the theater aspect and like the retirement community kind of small town vibe, this just feels very cozy and fall to me, and I feel like this would just be the perfect book to curl up with this fall and read, and I absolutely loved this. Next, we have 2 books by Haley Gardner, who passed away earlier this year, and I love recommending her books because 1, I think they're absolutely amazing, and 2, because it's a great way to continue to support her family and her work even now. And so first we have Girl Meets Grump. This one is a Grumpy Sunshine romance. Both of these are set in the Pacific Northwest, which I feel like is just the perfect, almost like moody, I imagine it being very foggy kind of fall vibe. And Girl Meets Grump is set almost at like a camping, cabin, glamping kind of place where people have these cabins and then they have like fires. It's just very fall to me with like camping kind of outdoorsy theme. And then the second one is Home Run Heart, and this is a second chance romance. It has a baseball player, but it's not a baseball romance. It's set during the off season, so during the fall. But I still feel like it's just very cozy. Again, very atmospheric in the Pacific Northwest, and I feel like both of these would just be so perfect to read in the fall time. Next, we have a couple of series that I absolutely love. So first we have the Only Magic in the Building series. This is 8 books that are set in the small town of Serendipity Springs. All the characters in these books share a connection through this magical, kind of quirky apartment building that each book and each couple kind of deals with a different quirk and magic that the apartment building kind of bestows on them. All of it very lighthearted, whimsical, fun magic, not dark spells, witches, anything like that. So if you're like me and you want to add a little bit of magic to your fall, but you don't want it to be anything dark or scary, I think this would be perfect for you. And then the other series is the Appy series. This is a hockey romance series. It's set in the like North Carolina, Tennessee mountains in a small town called Harvest Hollow. This series has some of the best found family. I absolutely love all of the characters in this series, all of their stories, and I feel like this is just perfect for the fall time. It also overlaps with another series that we're going to talk about that's on my TBR that also leans fall. So I feel like this whole small town world they've created in both of these series is just absolutely perfect for the fall time as well. Now we have a couple of romance books that have a little bit of spice, but it wasn't anything that I personally felt like I couldn't skip or made me not enjoy the story or I couldn't finish the book. But I will put page numbers and everything I can to let you guys make your own decision. But I wanted to include these because I do feel like they would be perfect to read in the fall time. So first we have Liaison Love by Fallon Ballard. This is set in fall time in New York City, specifically in Brooklyn in like a brownstone, which is just so picturesque, I feel like, for fall. She is wanting to open her own flower shop in this story, and then she ends up being roommates with the guy love interest. And this one leads into like Thanksgiving and stuff too. I have a whole video all about Thanksgiving books. I included this one in it if you're interested, but I feel like this, especially for like November time, would be a really fun book to pick up. Next, we have a couple of books by Ashley Poston. First, we have A Novel Love Story. This was her new release last fall. And this one follows a literature professor who basically her car breaks down and she ends up in the small town from her favorite romance series. Like, she's living in the small town with characters that she's read about and loved and known. There's also a romance subplot, but honestly, I feel like a lot of this book is just kind of a slice of life vibes, hanging out with the characters and just enjoying the small town atmosphere and just seeing things through Eileen's eyes. And so I really enjoyed this. I feel like it's just a perfectly cozy book for autumn. And then we also have The 7-Year Slip. This follows Clementine, who is living in her late aunt's apartment, and one day she walks in to find a man in her apartment, and come to find out the apartment basically is a time traveling apartment, so it will like slip 7 years back into the past and then go back 7 years forward. And this just makes for a perfectly magical, almost like forbidden kind of romance because it's a time travel romance. I just think that time travel, magical realism, anything like that in a romance book, I love, but especially in like fall and winter time, I feel like there's just something about it that's so cozy and whimsical and fun, and I just absolutely love it. I would love to honestly reread this book maybe this fall, but for now I'm recommending it. If you haven't read this, I would highly recommend picking it up. And then along the same magical realism, time travel, world-bending kind of stories, we have The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. The story follows Delphi, who dies and ends up in the afterlife, and there she sees this guy. She's like, oh, he's cute. And then they are like, oh, we made a mistake. He gets sent back to Earth. And she ends up making this deal to also go back to Earth to try to like find him, meet him, connect with him. And so you're following her as she goes about doing all of that. And I feel like this is just a really fun, lighthearted, kind of whimsical story that still feels a little bit spooky, and it's not spooky at all, but you know, it still kind of has that like October feeling. But this is my kind of like October book. It reminds me a lot of The Good Place, if you've watched that show. I absolutely love that show. I think it's so unique and interesting. So if you like that, I would highly recommend this book as well. And then lastly, it wouldn't be a fall recommendations segment of a video without a couple of fantasy, which I'm not a huge fantasy girl yet. I've been trying to get into some of it, but I really can't do like the dark, gory stuff. I need more like whimsical, magical kind of fantasy. So these are two series, trilogies, duologies that I have enjoyed that I would recommend for fantasy. So first we have the Powerless trilogy. There are 3 books in this series and 2 novellas, and they follow Peyton, who lives in this world of ordinaries and elites, where ordinaries have no powers and elites have powers, and she ends up getting picked as an ordinary. She's pretending to be an elite to compete in these trials with the elites, and that's where she meets love triangles and all kinds of things that go on with their government and everything. This was very fast-paced for me. I really enjoyed both the fantasy plot and the romance, and again, I think that reading fantasy during fall time is just the best. And then I also have to recommend Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. I read these books last year and absolutely fell in love with them. This is what I'm talking about. Like, this would be my perfect fantasy. It's a duology, so it's short, but you still get a lot of the story. These follow Roman and Iris, who are rival journalists at a paper in their country. And their country is at war, but it's the gods that are at war. And Roman and Iris end up kind of connecting through these magical typewriters, and they go on this huge journey throughout the story with both the plot of the war and the gods, but also their romance. And I thought this was just so beautifully written, so well done. I love this duology. These are some of my favorite books I read last year. I would love to reread this fall, and I highly recommend. Like I said, this is what I'm talking about. This is my perfect fantasy of like romance, whimsical, magical, still high stakes, but not like gory or brutal for the most part. And I absolutely love these. Now switching gears to my personal fall TBR. So I'll try to go a little bit faster through these since I haven't read them, but I'll try to share a little bit about what they're about as well. First, we have Can't Help Falling in Love by Sophie Sullivan. I mean, look at this cover. It's absolutely perfect for fall time. So I actually just read All I Want for Christmas Is You by her, and come to find out that book comes after this one. So I'm excited to go back and kind of see these characters' origins and how they fell in love. But this story follows Will and Lexi. They live in Seattle. And Lexi is a waitress, and I believe Will is like a company heir. Yeah, I feel like this will just be really fun. Fall in Seattle sounds like the perfect atmosphere. And then another No Spice romance with a beautiful fall cover on my TBR is Before We Were Us by Denise Hunter. This follows Lauren, who moves to New Hampshire to work at this like lodge cabin kind of place. And there she meets the owner's son, Jonah. They fall in love. And then she ends up falling off a ladder and losing like all of her memories from when she made that move. She only remembers her life before it. So this is one of those stories where like they're already together, but then when she loses her memory, like he has to fight for their love, help her remember, fight for them to stay in love, all of that stuff. And I love those kinds of stories. I love Denise Hunter's writing. And again, with this cover and that kind of more emotional romance, I feel like this is just going to be a really, really good read. Then also by Denise Hunter, I want to read The Second Story Bookshop. This comes out on October 7th. This story follows a woman who gets left a bookstore from her grandmother, but her grandmother also leaves half of it to her ex. So they have to work together to like save and fight for this bookstore. That just sounds so fun to me. It reminds me just a tiny bit of You've Got Mail with like fighting for a bookstore. I imagine like tech and big stores and stuff like that maybe is what's threatening it, but I'm not sure. And then the second chance aspect, and I feel like Denise Hunter just writes the most perfect, like uplifting, wholesome, but emotional romances that I just really, really enjoy. Next, we have Cover Story by Mari McFarlane. This also comes out on October 7th. And this will be my first book I've read by her, but I've been wanting to read one for forever, so I'm very excited to finally pick this one up. And I don't completely understand exactly the plotline of this one. I know her books are like romance subplots, more of women's fiction stories, and this one follows a woman who I believe goes undercover at like this newspaper office and ends up having to fake date an intern there. So I don't completely know what she's like investigating or what her like official job is and all of that, but it just sounds really fun. And yeah, I'm reading this fall for sure because it's coming out. I got an ARC, all of that, but I also feel like the like undercover mystery element of it will make it really fun for just the fall time and a little bit of mystery suspense kind of thing going on. Then speaking of You've Got Mail, this book is inspired by You've Got Mail, and that is Drawn Together by Juliana Smith. This book comes out September 27th, and it's set in New York City during fall time and follows rival children's book author illustrator. So like he's a book author, she's a children's book illustrator, and it's like a rivals to lovers situation. And I just feel like I'm gonna love this. I've been really wanting to pick up one of Juliana Smith's books and just haven't quite known where to start. But this one being like New York City in the fall time with like an author illustrator thing going on, and the cover is stunning. Like I feel like this one will definitely be my first one. I am very excited to read this fall, and I've just been very into the New York City fall books this season, so I feel like I have to read this to keep that theme going. And then another new fall release I really want to read is Chestnut Checkers by Anna Conwell. This comes out later. It comes out November 13th. And I think this one is like I think they're chess rivals, but also there's like football and fall kind of themes, and it's set like on a college campus. It's a college romance, and I just love reading like fall football college kind of romances, and I don't feel like there's a ton out there, at least that don't have spice. So I'm very excited for this new book by her. And then I also really want to read this fall the last, I think, of Courtney Walsh's more women's fiction with romance books that I haven't read yet, and that is The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley. This one follows a like university professor, and basically she reads this magazine article that's like 31 ways to be happy or something, and she decides to kind of create her own research experiment around that and see what it is that really makes you happy, I guess. And I think along the way there's another professor who maybe helps her with her research, and there's a subplot of romance, which we love. I really just feel like the themes of like happiness, gratitude, what's really important in life, probably really shine through this book, and I just feel like fall time is the perfect time to really embrace and reflect on that, and so I would love to get to this fall. And then last for No Spice, we have a couple of series on Kindle Unlimited I would love to read. And so first is to finish the Sweater Weather series. This is the one I mentioned earlier that kind of overlaps with the Appy series. And all of these are set in the small town of Harvest Hollow, and they all just have little touches of fall with all different tropes and everything. And I have read a few of these, but I haven't finished the series, so I would really love to do that this fall. And then also there is the Cinnamon Rolls and Pumpkin Spice series. This is another one that I feel like is just a bunch of like lighthearted rom-coms centered around different fall activities and things like that I feel like would just be very atmospheric and fun for like a quick lighthearted read this fall. And so I would love to get to some of these or all of these as well. Now I have just a handful of romances that have a little bit of spice that I would like to get to this fall if I can. And so the first one is Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. This is her new release for this year. And I really don't know a ton about this one, but I know that the magical realism in this book, all of her books have magical realism if you didn't catch on to that earlier. The magical realism in this book is centered around like music and a musical connection, and this is set, I believe, on the coast of North Carolina. And so the beach, North Carolina, the musical connection, magical realism, I feel like this just has all of the makings to be a book I really enjoy. And so I'm hopeful for that. We'll see, but I feel like music is just something that I have always loved and connected to, so adding that to reading and a cozy Ashley Poston story, I feel like you can't go wrong. And then the other one is It's Different This Time by Joss Richards. This is a second chance romance set in New York City that follows Adam and June. And I'm actually currently reading this. I'm about halfway through and I am loving it. And so June is in like the theater film world, and then Adam is a chef. And it's a past present timeline following like them 10 years ago when they were together to the present day when they are back in New York City for something I'll let you find out that kind of brings them back together. So yeah, I'm really loving this so far. I feel like this is a perfect fall read, similar to Falling Like Leaves, which I mentioned at the beginning of this video, and this one, like the perfect just atmospheric fall read. Falling Like Leaves being a young adult, no spice, and this one being an adult with a little bit of spice, but I'm just loving both of those books for fall time, and yeah, I think they're just perfect to get you in that fall mood. And lastly, I wanted to end off my TBR by mentioning some of the non-romance books that are still on my fall TBR. So these are like fantasy, dystopian, historical fiction, all of that. First, we have Glorious Rivals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the second book in the Grandest Game series. This came out in July, I believe. I just think that all of her like Inheritance Games, this new series, books are so fast-paced and fun and just kind of a fun escape with riddles and a little bit of romance and all of that. And so I've really enjoyed them and would love to pick this one up and kind of see where this new series continues to go. We also have The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I read this when I was in middle school maybe and really enjoyed it, but I've been wanting to do a reread, especially with the new books and movies that have come out. I haven't read them or watched them yet because I was waiting to kind of refresh. So I would love to read not just this one, but the entire trilogy plus the new books and watch all the new movies this fall. I feel like that would just be a really fun activity for like a weekend or whatever. I've just really been wanting to do that, and I've kind of been saving it for fall. Another one that I've been saying I'm going to read and I need to finally pick up this fall is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I read The Great Alone by her one winter, and then I've also read Firefly Lane, and I really enjoyed both of those. So like I know that her storytelling in this book is going to be incredible. I more so feel like I've been putting it off because everybody just like sobs at the end. But if you don't know, this is World War II historical fiction following two sisters, and I've just heard so many good things. This is like a brick of a book, but I need to finally pick this up. I feel like fall or even fall into winter time would be perfect, and so you guys hold me accountable. I'm reading this fall and winter season. Then I also am very excited to read Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. This is her new release that is set in the same world as Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, which I loved. So I'm very excited to read this one. I honestly don't know much of what it's about besides that, but that's really all I need to know until I start reading, and I cannot wait. I have a hold on this, so as soon as it comes in, I feel like I will be picking this up. I also really want to read the Assistant to the Villain series. I feel like this was on my fall TBR last year, and then I also think I put it on my spring TBR because I feel like since it's like fairy tale, a little bit more whimsical, it's a fantasy that could kind of go for the spring season as well. And I still haven't picked it up, and I have no excuse because the first book is on Kindle Unlimited, so I need to finally get to this. I feel like this will, again, kind of going with my theme of fantasy, just wanting it to be a little more lighthearted, less gory, more whimsical fantasy. I feel like this will be perfect and I will really enjoy it. Another one that's been sitting on my TBR for a while that is a brick of a book that I really need to finally get to is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I mainly want to read this because I really want to read a Stephen King book that's not a horror, gory book just to see his writing. So this one is more of like a time travel, sci-fi, historical romance kind of story where basically the main character is going back in time to try to prevent the JFK assassination. I would love to pick this up. I feel like around November 22nd would be ideal. And then lastly on my TBR is The Ministry of Time by Kaylee and Bradley. This one is also like a sci-fi time travel romance kind of story that ever since I heard Haley Pham talk about this book and give it 5 stars has really been something that sounds interesting to me. So I would really love to pick this up this fall. It reminds me a little bit of the show Timeless, if you've ever seen that. It's a show where like they constantly are going back in time to try to prevent this other guy who has a time machine from like changing history. They're trying to preserve history. It's a really good show if you want to watch it, but I feel like it kind of reminds me of that, and I feel like I would really enjoy this. Learning about history, historical, time travel, sci-fi kind of stuff, I feel like is a genre I would like to get into and would really enjoy. Okay, and that is my TBR and book recommendations for this autumn season. I have a video from last year of a bunch of fall Kindle Unlimited No Spice books, so I will link that video here for you all to watch next. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Take care, friends.